Hi there, I'm Dr. Robin Hansen. I'm a veterinarian with Vet Pronto, and I'm here today to help you learn a little bit more about what to do to prepare your pet for your baby's arrival. First off, I want to say congratulations on the new baby. It's very exciting. Here's a photo of my daughter Cora and my cat Steve. She's just 2 weeks old here, and you can see they got along pretty well from the beginning. A lot of that had to do with things that I got prepared ahead of time, so I want to share a little bit about that with you to help make the transition to pet owning parents a smooth transition. I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can do to get yourself prepared for the first 6 weeks of the baby being here, and also some tips to help you be savvy pet owning parents. So before the baby comes, these are some things you might want to look into getting done. And I'm going to be talking about dogs and cats, so it's up to you to decide what you need based on your own pet's needs. And if you have any specific questions, make sure to talk with your veterinarian about those concerns and questions you have. Few decisions to make at the start before the baby comes is who will provide the care for your pets during the delivery. You want to make sure you find somebody that you trust, but also someone that's going to be available in case of any emergencies or contingencies that keep you away from home longer than maybe you expected. Also somebody that doesn't mind getting a phone call in the middle of the night or early in the morning that you're on your way to the hospital. Another thing to tackle is to decide who's going to do the pet chores once the baby is around. You're going to be pretty busy and pretty tired, so making these decisions ahead of time will hopefully help you avoid some fights and tense discussions about who was the last one to walk the dog or who has to scoop the box for the cats this time. Decide and think about who, if your pet is going to be allowed to be in the nursery or not. That's something decide ahead of time, and that can help you plan out your pet training, if they're going to be allowed in the nursery or not. And there's tips on how to help with training for both of those scenarios at the ASPCA's website in an article called Preparing Your Dog for the Baby or Preparing Your Cat for Baby. Another thing to think about is, where is the pet going to sleep? A lot of parents like to have the baby in the bedroom with them, and it's difficult to do that if the dog or the cat is also in the bed snuggling up with you. So decide on where the pet's going to sleep once the baby's here and start working on changing that ahead of time if you do need to change that scenario. So helping to create the right environment for your pet. One thing you'll want to consider is moving the food and the water bowls, litter boxes, potty pads, anything that the baby might get into. Move those ahead of time so the pet gets used to them being in a new place, but also so you don't forget to move them. Takes a while for the baby to get up and moving and crawling around, but it might help to just get that stuff out of the way ahead of time. And just as a reminder for cat owners, the rule for litter boxes is you want to have one box per cat plus one extra. So in this case, for an example, if you had 2 cats, you should have 3 litter boxes. And ideally, there should be one on every floor of the house so that the cat has a place to go pretty quickly. But keep in mind where those litter boxes are positioned and where the baby might be going. You might need to kind of break that rule for a little bit, at least during the start of things. And here we have some really fun audio tracks of babies crying. You can find a couple different things. Some are on YouTube. There are some on Spotify. There's on iTunes. What you do with these ahead of time is help desensitize your pet to the sounds that babies make. I like this one here on Spotify, Baby Sounds for Pets, because it has a lot of different kinds of sounds, not just crying, but laughing and giggling and cooing. Start off by playing the sounds really at a very low volume. Gradually, over a few weeks, start to increase that volume over time to desensitize them to the strange new sounds that babies are going to make. And all the while you're doing it, lots of treats and positive reward and praise and good job, I love you, really reassuring them that the sounds are nothing to be afraid of. And next we're going to talk about how to create a safe environment for your pet and help them be comfortable with the transition. A few things here we'll talk about are pheromone diffusers, milk protein extracts, food and food puzzles, the thunder shirt, and a seatbelt crate or other sort of a barrier for the car for the dogs that go riding in the car. This one here I really like is called Adaptil. It's for dogs, and there's a similar one for cats called Feel Away, which I'll show next. Adaptil and Feel Away both are synthetic pheromones that are calming, relaxing pheromones for dogs and cats. You can see the Adaptil one comes in a diffuser that you plug into the wall, a collar that the dog wears, or a spray that you can spray onto dog beds or towels. And Feel Away comes as a diffuser for the wall and a spray also. This is something that you'd want to start using a couple weeks before your due date. Plug it in, get the collar on the dog. It kind of just helps them relax and feel a little bit more confident in the environment when the changes are happening. Another product that's relatively new is called Zilkene. It's a milk protein extract that you can give as a capsule. You can see from the picture the capsule also opens up and you can put it on some wet food for your cats so you don't have to pill them. For the dogs too, if they're a little bit harder to give a pill to. The milk protein extract in Zilkene, it's also a similar product in this next one, this Royal Canin Calm Diet. And what it does is it's in studies has been shown to decrease anxiety, increase relaxation. It's something that would be also a temporary change for them during stressful times like a move or new baby coming into the house. Something that you would want to incorporate into the routine a couple weeks before your due date and continue for a couple weeks after the baby is there. Stuffed Kongs cannot be more important during this time. If your dog is food motivated, this is something that can be really useful. If you stuff the Kong with some wet food and peanut butter and some treats and pop it in the freezer, it's going to be something that will take quite a while for your dog to work at, and it's going to keep them entertained for a long time. So when you need the dog to go away and do its own thing and not be in your business and trying to see the baby and getting in your way, that's something that can be really a lifesaver. I would say have a few of those ready in the freezer ahead of time, so you can just pull one out anytime that you need the dog to have a little bit of a distraction. There's plenty of other food puzzles that are out there, which can just be beneficial in general because you're going to be paying a lot less attention to your pet. And food puzzles can be very stimulating for them mentally and can also help slow down their eating so they're not overeating and gaining weight when they're maybe not getting as much exercise as they were. The Thunder Shirt is something to consider for dogs and cats that potentially have noise phobias. So if you've noticed before that your dog or your cat is really anxious and upset and worried during thunderstorms or windy nights, even if it's something that they have a hard time with, a Thunder Shirt may be useful during that initial period with the baby crying. Hopefully you've been able to work with them on the pet sounds or the Baby Sounds for Pets album. Hopefully you've been able to desensitize them to the noise a little bit. But if not, the Thunder Shirt may be an option to help add an extra layer of protection there. And the last thing to look into is for the dogs that ride along in the car, some sort of a barrier in the car to keep them from going all around in the back seat and getting into the car seat and in the area where the baby's going to be. So those would be things like a harness like you see here, a dog crate in the car, or maybe even potentially a grate that you would put in the back, like in a station wagon or in an SUV. You'd have them riding in the back of the car with that grate up. Definitely get that into the car ahead of time, and I would say also put the car seat in the car ahead of time. That gives the dog some time to adjust to this new idea of being restrained while they're in the car. It's best for the dog to be restrained when they're in the car at all times anyway, not just for a baby. It's best for everybody's safety in case of an accident. All right, so the next thing to consider, you're going to be very busy, especially in those first 6 weeks or so that the baby's here. You're going to be very busy. So stock up on all the supplies that you might need for your pet. This includes food, any cat litter, puppy pads, treats, poop bags for scooping up that poop when you're out on walks or cleaning the litter box, any toys, any new toys that you might want to get out. Get that stuff ahead of time so you're not finding that you're running out of those things late at night and you have to run to the store, or the store's closed and you don't have anything to feed your pet. Brush up on basic obedience with your dog. Very important that they are well mannered when there's a baby around. A big thing I'm going to stress is crate training. That can be very useful for the dog and for the baby. It can be on both sides. I see it more as a space for a dog to go and escape to. If they're feeling overwhelmed or stressed by the baby, they want to have a safe space to go to. Crate training can give them that space where they feel like they can go and get away if they need a break from the baby crying, or the baby, once the baby's crawling. The crate will be a great place for the dog to go. And there's good resources online for crate training, especially at aspca.org with their virtual pet behaviorist. Some tips on what to train your dog, things like sit, stay, down. Some people will use go to your spot or quiet, settle, something like that, with an area where the dog bed is or the crate, something like that, where you can tell the dog, essentially you're telling the dog, go away, you're bothering me right now, I need you to go, leave me alone. This is something to start working on ahead of time. Go into the nursery, sit in your nursing chair, have the dog go lay down in their dog bed, tell them go to your spot and throw some treats into that dog bed, so they start to learn that when you're in the nursery and sitting quietly in the chair, they need to also be sitting quietly in the corner. They can be there and watch, but they can't be right next to your side. Always, when you're training, positive reinforcement only. It really is what works best for dogs. We don't want to do any punishment-based training. The pack mentality and alpha dog training really has detrimental effects. It is not a beneficial way to train your dog. Positive reinforcement is the way to go. And there's a lot of resources online for how to help learn about positive reinforcement. So the next thing to talk about is making sure that you see your vet ahead of time. Once the baby's here, you're really not going to have time to get this kind of thing done. So getting in there ahead of time to make sure your pet has everything you need before the baby is here will be really useful. You want to make sure you have a thorough physical exam for your pet. Get all of their vaccines up to date. If you have a dog, make sure they have a current heartworm test, and also refills on any flea or heartworm medication or any prescription medications that your pet may take, so that you don't run out of a supply once the baby's here. Another thing to have checked out is a stool sample to make sure that your pet doesn't have any GI parasites that could be transmitted to you or the baby. And if you have an older pet, like a dog or a cat that's over 7 years old, it's best to have senior blood work performed to make sure that your pet doesn't have any internal illnesses that you may not see from the outside. And lastly, for the vet visit, if you need to, make sure that you get your dog's or your cat's nails trimmed. That way you're not worrying about them scratching the baby once they're here. And if you have a shaggy, hairy dog, it's probably best to take them to the groomer ahead of time, get their haircut done before the baby's here. And if it would be more convenient for you to have a veterinarian come to see you in the comfort of your own home, Vet Pronto provides veterinary house call visits in the San Francisco Bay Area. We can definitely help you get everything ready before the baby arrives. Homecoming! So the big day is finally here. You have the baby and it's time to come home. One of the things you can do is have your partner bring home some blankets from the hospital ahead of time so that the dog or the cat can kind of get a little bit of a smell of what is coming. That partner, when they come home, they're also going to have some of that hospital smell on their clothing or birth center, wherever you might be. They're going to have a little bit of that new smell on them. But bring that smell ahead of time so they can check you out. When you are coming home with the baby, decide who's going to monitor the baby and who's going to monitor the pets. It's best to have a tag team approach here where one person is in charge of the baby and one person is in charge of the pets. That way you're not back and forth trying to scramble on things. Best for mom to go in without the baby to greet the pets. Go in, let them get excited about seeing you. It's been a while since they've seen you. They want to jump all over you. They get really excited. You're the best person ever. They're so glad you're home. So go in first without the baby. Once they've seen you, greeted you, relaxed and calmed down, then go ahead and bring the baby in. Any dogs in the house, make sure that you keep them on the leash during that initial introduction and reaction period. You want to be able to keep everybody safe while they first meet the baby. And make sure you have one, like I said earlier, one person is dedicated to holding the pets and will be able to take care of anything that might be going on with them. If they seem uncomfortable at all, allow them to leave. Don't force them to stay and look at the baby or smell the baby. Let them leave. If they're uncomfortable, let them get out of there. They'll come around in their own time. And a little note here about some of the zoonotic diseases, which are animal to human diseases that you need to be on the watch for. Regular visits to your vet will help with prevention for that. Things that I'm talking about are roundworms, hookworms, giardia, leptospirosis. These are things that are pretty easy to prevent with vaccines or regular dewormings. Good news is your regular heartworm medication usually takes care of any of the GI parasites. But some important basic hygiene things: pick up any dog poop or cat poop right away. With cats, scoop the box at least once a day. Check to see if you see any worms in the poop, or if you're concerned about it, take a stool sample into your vet to have it checked. And regular vet appointments will help catch any of these things early on. As far as the risk for toxoplasmosis for pregnant women, it is important that you stay away from the litter box, but it's not as scary as it used to be thought. You're actually at a bigger risk for contracting toxoplasmosis from eating undercooked meat or from gardening than you are from scooping the litter box. Still, that's something I know when I was pregnant, scooping the litter box, the smell made me feel sick. And then as I got a little bit bigger, it was just really uncomfortable to bend over and scoop that litter box. So it wasn't something that I was able to do. And you definitely need to have somebody else do that for you. And some myths and frequently asked questions that you might get or that you might hear from family members. They're going to tell you that you have to get rid of your cat, that you can't have your cat because you're going to get toxoplasmosis, which is absolutely such a low risk. You do not need to get rid of your cat. So many animals enter shelters on a regular daily basis because of new babies coming into the house. Sounds like you're already dedicated to keeping your pet around with a new baby. So some things to keep in mind is that you are at a very low risk for developing toxoplasmosis from your cat, as long as you have somebody else scoop up the litter box and you wash your hands after you've done anything regarding the litter box. You should be fine there. There have never been any reported cases of a cat smothering a baby. You may hear that the cat's going to jump into the crib and lick the baby's mouth because of the milk, and they're going to smother the cat or they're going to suck their breath out. This is not true. It's an urban legend. It's an old wives' tale. If you really are concerned about about your cat being in the bed, that's something where you can work on making sure that they just don't come into the nursery at all. There's resources out there on how to help prevent the cat from going into the crib. And then lastly is a reminder that all dogs are capable of biting. Babies are unpredictable. Dogs are unpredictable. You should never leave your baby alone with your dog. No matter how safe you think it is, there's always the risk out there of a dog bite. So the best prevention is to keep them supervised and separated when they can't be supervised. That's all that I have for you today. So again, congratulations on the new baby, and keep in mind that pets are an important part of a child's growing up. They help with preventing allergies for kids and asthma for kids. They enhance the human-animal bond. They learn empathy and compassion. They just learn how to be loving people when they have pets around. So it's great that you're considering all of these tips and tricks to help your pet have the smoothest transition possible to the new baby in the house. Take care and congratulations.